Welcome to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and today we're going to be talking about the AARP Driver Safety Program with two of the volunteers with that program, Bervin Elliott and Pamela Hotelling. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
So, Elliott, give us a little bit of background on the Driver Safety Program and sort of how you came to teach this program. Both of you, as I said, are volunteers.
Yes, we're volunteers. AARP's Smart Driver course is AARP Driver Safety's largest and the first course offered in the nation for folks that are 50 and older. It is a refresher course, and this year we're celebrating 40 years of the program. I started with the program a few years ago, and basically I started as giving instruction or whatever, but now I am basically the coordinator for the program. So within the state of Virginia.
Within the state of Virginia.
Yes.
So Pamela, you as well are teaching the course here in the state of Virginia.
Yes, I've been teaching for about 3 years now. Originally, I took the course online because I was working downtown Washington, didn't have the time, but I was hooked. I said, I want to be affiliated with this program, and I have been teaching in the classroom ever since.
So even though there's online tools, you really recommend that people, if they can, sit in the classroom. What are the benefits of being in a classroom with other students?
The benefits is the interaction. A lot of the participants, they're able to ask questions on relevant issues to them, and there's just a lot of interaction, and I'm able to update them on everything going on in Virginia that would be relevant to them.
So things, for instance, legislation about not texting and driving. You know, we had sort of failed legislation this past year about cell phone usage.
Yes.
Did not get passed. I think we'll see that again this year.
Hopefully,
I think many people understand that people shouldn't be using their cars, not just texting, but talking on the phone. So things like that, anything that's new that people need to know about, this would be the place for them to find that information.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like the move over law that we have in Virginia, people may not know about that. And also what to do when a school bus stops, that you see people, they're not sure sometimes what to do, especially if you're on the opposite side of the road. And without a median, you're supposed to stop for that bus.
I see people struggling with that right here in Fairfax, and you've made a very good point. This isn't just something seniors need to know, it's something that lots of people are in a quandary about what is the law, and it is a physical median. If you're on the other side of the road and there's no physical median, you stop. But explain a little bit about this move over law.
The move over law means that when you see a police officer or any EMT, someone alongside the road with the lights flashing, there's another cars with them, that a motorist but legally needs to move over, not drive right next to them, but to move over a lane. That's the move over law. Now, if the traffic is too heavy and they're unable to get in safely, you are to slow down to a crawl. So that this protects the people, the
on the side
officer,
of the road.
Absolutely. So, and then tap your brakes if you're afraid of getting hit, from someone in the back who doesn't see it perhaps. But this is the law in Virginia.
And some of these are fairly new. The other one is going below the speed limit, especially in the passing lane.
Yes.
I can tell you, I pass people on the right on 95 because they do not move over. They're going below the speed limit in the passing lane.
They're supposed to move over to the right side. If they're going less or, just the speed limit, because it allows the person to pass.
Right. And so these are things that I think all people struggle with. But, as seniors get older, they may not realize that there are things that impact their ability to react quickly. They may be on medications that impact their driving.
Right.
There's a lot of seniors who don't drive at night.
Yes. The course does address these issues, how medication impacts a person, individuals, and as well as your flexibility as you get older changes, as well as your visibility and be able to drive at doing all conditions. For example, rain or at nighttime, and some people restrict that. And what the course does offer is those alternatives, for you to look at those alternatives instead of trying to negotiate maybe 95, 495 or whatever, that you should maybe take side roads. You use GPS or whatever. So alternatives that are provided.
So do you talk about things like using GPS? I mean, how familiar are seniors with trying to use GPS?
They may not be that familiar, so there are other ways. We discuss it in the class of what are your options, and for people to understand there are options. If you don't understand, there are other technologies perhaps, or even just Google Maps or whatever works for you.
Whatever works, yeah.
You know, and there's all kinds of new technology in cars. There's Bluetooth technology, and I think this is something you were saying, Pamela, that you address is some of the new safety features that newer models of cars are providing.
Absolutely, and we have this Smart Driver Tech Workshop. It's new, and where it's being piloted across the country. It's not in Virginia yet, but you can take it online. There are no in-classroom courses yet in Virginia. And this actually goes through all these new safe technologies, especially if you have a new car, or in my case where I'm looking to buy a new car. I know which features like forward collision warning, lane departure warning, blind spot warning, and it's a 90-minute course available online for people in
But
Virginia.
some of these issues are addressed in the course itself, just some of them, touch on it, to let you be aware of that, and that these are helpful devices, but like myself, I do use them in my new car, but I also am old school, and I still look back or whatever.
I do
So
too.
it's a habit.
That backup camera, I just don't trust the backup camera. I can see the backup camera, but I still look over my shoulder because I don't trust the camera.
Right.
You know, and the thing with the side view mirrors that let you know when someone's in your blind spot.
Yes, very helpful.
It is very helpful, but I notice when I'm driving a car that doesn't have that, man, you end up relying on it a lot. And if you're in a car that does, like a rental car that doesn't have it,
Yes, it's a big change.
it does. It impacts your ability to be able to navigate once you start relying on some of these technical things.
Yeah.
So some of our viewers are probably wondering about how you have a conversation with your aging parent about whether they should still be driving.
Yes, well, we do have a program, this supplement to the course itself, and it's called We Need to Talk. And it's a hour and a half program, online. You can go to it, or you can go to it one-on-one with a person that's familiar with the program, that teaches the program. And it helps you address the issue with your mother, father, whoever that's senior that's driving that maybe should not be driving. Gives you aids and things for you to check off to look at, one, how they're driving, what they're doing, and how to approach them to say that maybe you need to stop driving.
And it's a very emotional issue because
Very.
it's not just that it's for their own safety. You're taking away a certain amount of autonomy and independence that older people have enjoyed because they can get in their car and drive themselves places.
Yes. And on top of that, what you talk about is alternatives. Of course, nowadays we have Uber, we have taxis, we have buses. I use the bus myself. I have one of those senior cards or whatever, but yes.
Yeah,
but
senior
it's,
card.
it's,
Okay,
it's an
there you go.
alternative to know. But also in this Northern Virginia area, there are places like
We have
that-
NV Rides.
NV Rides.
I've done a show with NV Rides.
And
so
they offer services for folks to get to the doctor back and forth. And of course, there's Metro Access,
That's
whatever.
right.
So there are a whole lot of resources there that people can use to go to the doctor, get food or whatever. But to be independent, that may be an alternative as well. But we do address that.
And that's what I think people get out of my classes, is that we're able to discuss options. That's why I have a feeling of optimism when they leave, and I think, so people know there are options for you if you cannot drive anymore, or things to think about when you're looking at a new place to live, for example. Do they provide transportation? And I think that's what people get, is a chance for them to address their own personal interests in the class.
and I think, we want people to understand they need to quit driving before something tragic happens.
Yes.
So in the news fairly recently, Prince Philip of England was in a car accident. Now he's well into his 90s, and it shouldn't have taken being in an accident before someone said perhaps he shouldn't be driving anymore. But it only goes to show you there is a reluctance for people to admit that perhaps they don't have the response time or the ability to drive a car anymore.
Yes. That
But
happens.
this driver safety program is about taking that skill that you still have
Right.
and getting the most out of it.
And for you to also evaluate yourself And that's what happens throughout the course. You get to evaluate your own driving, and your skills, abilities, etc.
And so one of the big bonuses too is that I understand there's an insurance benefit to taking this course.
Yes. You are given a certificate when you complete the 8-hour course. And I always tell people, call your insurance company immediately, tell them you've done this. And it's a 3-year discount usually on it, but it might vary by insurance provider, so I ask people to call.
Yeah, I would not have known that. That alone is worth expending 8 hours in a class.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have to be a member of AARP to take these AARP classes.
No, you don't. No, just anyone can take it. We offer classroom as well as online courses. People usually prefer the classroom environment, but the online is available to members and non-members as well. Right now, for members in the classroom, it's AARP members is $15 and $20 for non-members. Online, it's $19.95 and $24.95 for non-members. Now, I'll say this month of June, there's a 25% discount that's offered out there. So if you want to take advantage of it, this is the time
that's
to do
nice.
it. So, okay.
That's nice. So there might be people who are in more remote locations.
Yes, correct.
You all give the classes fairly frequently in a lot of places here in Northern Virginia.
Yes, we do. Yes,
So
we do.
community centers, faith
Churches,
communities, yeah.
yes.
And so if people were interested, if they think they have a big enough group, they could actually reach out and ask for a class to be given at their location.
Yes, they could host a class. That's correct. So, and we ask that they have, a DVD machine, and that's basically, and a classroom, of course, to accommodate anywhere from 15 to 25 folks. We try to limit it at 25.
So this might be something. So I live in a condo building that has a party room
Right.
that would easily provide
Convert.
everything necessary to give this class.
Yes.
But probably community centers in most suburban neighborhoods also have like a clubhouse or
Yes.
any similar space, correct?
Right. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. For example, I have classes that are in the Williamsburg area where they do them at one of the golf courses that they have. So it's a nice facility, and they use it all the time.
So, and I would imagine that clubs, service clubs, women's clubs, and other people that actually have a regularly scheduled meeting
Yes.
could actually have you present the class.
Yes. Now, in Virginia, the course requirement is 8 hours. We usually either have it one day or we split it up into 2 A's at 4 hours.
That is
which
important.
is very important.
That is important to know.
understand.
And when we get back from our break, we are going to discuss further the many benefits of the AARP Driver Safety Program.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to.
Welcome back to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and today we're talking about the AARP Driver Safety Program with Bervin Elliott and Pamela Hotelling. Thank you both so much for being here. So when we went to break, we were talking about the fact that the class is 8 hours, which can be broken up into 2 4-hour classes.
Correct.
And a lot of people might be going, goodness gracious, what in the world are you talking about for 8 hours? So Pamela, what are some of the specifics that you are covering in these classes?
Well, one thing we say, the old adage, the only thing constant is change. And we're all changing, our bodies, our health situations, and the vehicles are changing. We hope for the better with driving features, and also the roadways are changing with new markings. What we're able to do is to go through some individual situations that people may encounter. We run into some challenging situations sometimes, like, for example, going into a medical building. Sometimes the parking, and we know, it can be
Right.
quite difficult, and you're spinning around looking for parking. Well, now when I go to some of these places, I ask them, when is there movement in the garage? And the people say, lunchtime. I said, that's when my appointment is, lunch. So that people can start thinking about options, that they can do this. They can find times that they don't want to drive, that you don't have to get on the roads at rush hour. I teach my classes from 10 to 3.
Makes
I
sense.
do not want my drivers during rush hour. And they're just to have people think, if you're driving and you're stressed for whatever reason, look for a strip mall, look for a McDonald's, or look for a gas station. Maybe the weather is rough and you're getting a little unnerved. Fine, pull over. There's no gotta do's for
Right.
the most part. And so for people to think about, what are my options so that I'm not stressed when I'm out there on the road? If you can't make that left turn at the busiest intersection, and we all face it, well, what do? You go make right turns, come around the block.
Oh, right,
And
right.
then you are positioned to go right across the intersection without making that dangerous, stressful left-hand turn.
See, this is just good advice for anybody. But you bring up some really important factors, which is strategically thinking about how to workarounds. You're teaching people workarounds. I would not have thought of making right turns so that you go straight across instead of making a left. That is awesome advice. And women driving alone, I think you mentioned that a lot of the women, a lot of the people in your classes are women, older women.
Right,
So
right.
driving by yourself can be intimidating.
It can be, and if for any reason, hopefully it won't happen, but if you feel threatened, uneasy for whatever reason, whatever's going on out there on the road, look for a safe place to pull off. Again, look for that strip mall, look for the McDonald's, or look for the gas station where you can pull off and be with other people.
Right.
And, just think of other options, but don't stay out there if you're feeling stressed or frightened for whatever reason.
Absolutely. And so, Elliot, what are you finding as far as when people request, I'm interested in people who are like, come teach the class. What do you think their expectations are when you say, like, well, we're going to do 1 8-hour class or 2 4-hour classes? What do they think they're getting when you do that?
Well, they're getting a lot of information, and they're giving alternatives to driving safely. They're getting a refresher also as well, because when I was younger, yes, I drove differently. I've been driving for 40, 50 years. A lot of folks will say that. But the irony is that there have been a lot of changes, as Pamela suggests, and there have been. And so you have to get this refresher course to get you up to date on what's going on. One thing in Virginia, they're introducing roundabouts. That's one thing.
Oh my, yes, the roundabout. Uh-huh.
I'm from Jersey, but
Yeah.
I have a different thought about roundabouts. But those things are
They
coming
really
out.
confuse people. So I live in Fairfax City.
Yes.
So we've always had Fairfax Circle. And a lot
Right.
of people are very uncomfortable with that. But now out on Route 50, as you go out toward like Leesburg and Middleburg,
Yes,
they've
they
got
have 'em.
2 consecutive roundabouts. And I mean,
Right.
even I'm like, okay, it's very confusing.
There's one in Vienna also near Maple Avenue. I can't think what street it's on. I think it's Park Avenue. But
Yeah,
it's one
roundabouts
there.
for a lot of experienced drivers, that's a new thing. Bike lanes.
Right.
Bike
Yes.
lanes, I mean, it makes me nervous to drive in DC with bicycles on the road. And sometimes they have stanchions in between the bike
Yes,
lane, and
yes.
sometimes they don't. And you've got bicycles in traffic.
Yes.
But the really crazy thing are these electric scooters.
Yes.
And they're everywhere. They're
Yeah.
in the road, they're on the sidewalk. I don't know if they're in the bike lane, but it's like there's so little regulation that
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine any driver being nervous when they see somebody on one of these electric
They
scooters.
do. And what we try to address in the course is for you to be on the lookout for these kind of changes in the traffic, when you have the scooters and the bikes, et cetera. So we talk about that in the course as
Even
well.
getting out of the car, and I know that Chap
Yes.
Peterson, my senator, had a dooring bill,
Mm-hmm.
and the bill was, if you accidentally open your door into a
Yes.
bicycle,
Yes, you're charged.
you're charged.
Yes, that's correct.
Right, and so people don't even think about that. So from the perspective of being a driver,
Mm-hmm.
you need to always check behind you before you open your car door. I mean, that's for anybody actually.
Yes.
But it may not be intuitive because a lot of older drivers are not accustomed to bicycles speeding past them.
Yes,
That's fairly new, at least in this area.
Right. Well, and of course, we do have videos to see folks that how they responded to what's going on, what they have to change, what changes they've made, and how they are aware of the environment. Have to be very aware of their environment now, and because of the traffic. And of course, you know, we have the newer things like these. What do you call this? They used to be HOV lanes, and now they're the easy
they're
pass
easy
lane.
lines themselves.
Charge for
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a problem. But we try to create that awareness in the course for those kind of things because people will bring it up. They'll ask questions, and that's important when everybody has a discussion. Yes, it might be 8 hours, and that's a state requirement, but it's a time to discuss what's going on in your life when you're driving.
And do you
It's
find
important.
that people bring up very specific problems they've had, and is that instructive for everybody else?
It is. What I find in the classes, there's a lot of information sharing. Sometimes someone will bring up a topic, and it's a new one, actually it might be new to me, and then there's a whole group actually discussing what that issue is, and we all learn from each other. That's another nice aspect of the in-classroom training, that we learn from each other. And you have that opportunity. I said some of the issues that come up are just, oh, okay, we hadn't thought of that.
Oh, well, I can imagine. You know, and there's things that I think are unique to certain areas. One of the things we have a problem with up here is deer.
Yes.
Deer. I mean, maybe not every place in the country has to be careful about, especially at dusk and at dawn, which is generally when you find deer crossing the road. But I mean, it's very dangerous.
Right.
And what's difficult there is, it is actually covered in our manual. And I always have to tell people that unfortunately Bambi loses.
Yeah.
Because, and law enforcement will tell you that if it's the deer are swerving, fortunately the deer loses.
Yeah.
And that's understood. And people, I get a lot of, oh no, you know, but that's,
you gotta report
you
it
have
as
to,
well.
yes, and you do have
have to
to
report it.
report it, yes.
Yeah, we've got a goose problem here locally as well.
Okay.
You know, yeah, it's in the spring, and you know, as long as people are going slow enough that they can stop, that's fine. Like I've been on Route 50 where they're walking the ducklings, and everybody stopped.
Right.
But then people had plenty of notice to stop. But I mean, if a goose gets out in front of your car, like you said, the goose loses because you can't cause a 5-car pileup.
No, you can't.
And as I point out too, that you think, oh, I'm going to swerve. Well, you may not be aware that there's another car or a pedestrian, a bicyclist on your other side, and you can hurt someone. You can be doing more damage by swerving. And I said the police will say, no, you just have to take the deer head on.
Yeah.
And as hard as it is to think about it.
I know.
Yeah.
But these are the things that are specific to the DC area. You do classes around Virginia.
Yes,
So-
all over the entire state. We have instructors throughout the state, approximately 85 to 90 instructors, and we're always looking for additional volunteers as well. And it's not just the instructors we're looking for. Folks that work in IT can provide classes or give them instruction, help them out with the course or whatever. So, and which is beneficial. And we have need for marketing people too. People get out there, go to the events that we sponsor as well.
Right.
That, Fairfax had a big event that we were at. I think in a few weeks, Green Spring is having something. Then they have something in the Tidewater area, whatever. It's all over the state. But we need folks to attend those items, you know, pass out information about the course as well.
And I did discover on the AARP website there is a Virginia-specific site, and there's under Virginia, there's events in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
People can actually sign up and subscribe so that
Yes.
they get an email saying this is the events that are coming up in your area.
Right, and it's not just driver safety events, it's events.
all kinds of events.
Yes, on tax, on Medicare, on texting, on how to use your iPad, or as well as scams, on, you know, discussing scams.
AARP is a fantastic organization, and it offers a lot, but we need to emphasize that it's also volunteer driven. The two of
Right.
you are volunteers, you're looking for volunteer instructors,
Yes.
and it's volunteers who can bring language abilities, correct?
Right, we always are looking for instructors and volunteers that speak other languages as well.
Because
So,
you've got drivers who speak other languages. So
Yes.
clearly, you know, if we've got somebody out there who speaks Farsi or Korean or Chinese or Spanish.
Spanish, yes.
You know, we need those volunteers to help basically deliver the curriculum to drivers who need it in their native language.
Yes, and we do provide that. We can provide it. But like I said, we're looking for instructors in different language, which would be great. An advantage for, especially in Fairfax, where there's so many languages spoken
it's
in
very
the schools.
diverse here.
Yes,
very diverse here.
yeah.
And let's remind people too that AARP means 50 and above.
Yes, 50 and above. Yeah.
You know, that means I'm in that category too. But a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm not a senior citizen, but AARP is there to serve people over 50.
Yes, and really, it's really helping the folks that are 50 now that have to help their parents or
It's true.
elder adults or whatever. So it gives that information not just for the person that's 50 and above, but the younger person, so they can assist and help that person that's older and needs it.
You know, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people are in that sandwich generation where they
Yes,
got to worry
good.
about their children
Yes.
on the road
Yes.
and their parents on the road.
Right.
You know, and everybody just wants everyone to be safe out there.
You're right. We do.
So the more educated all of us are about the rules of the road, the safer all of us are going to be out there.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you very much, Pamela. Thank you very much, Elliot. I
Yes.
really appreciate that. I love having AARP programs on this show because it is such a service to everybody in our community.
is. It is.
And so for you at home, this has been the AARP Driver Safety Program. You can find their information online. You can find the driver safety programs online. And remember, too, that if you have an organization, a group, a faith community, someone who wants to host an 8-hour program or 2 4-hour programs, please reach out and find a volunteer, or better yet, why don't you be a volunteer? And that is what you need to know.